So picture this, you're scrolling through your social media feed when you see a compelling post about a miracle health cure. Your friend swears by it, the testimonials seem genuine, and the scientific looking graphs are very impressive. But something doesn't feel quite right. That subtle feeling, that quiet voice of discernment, that's your critical thinking trying to get your attention. So every day we're bombarded with over 5,000 messages trying to influence our thoughts and decisions. But here's the real question. How do we know what to trust? And more importantly, how do we learn to trust ourselves? Hello, this is Dr. RB. I'm a licensed Jungian trained psychologist, and I've helped people navigate the complex landscape of modern information. And what I've discovered is fascinating. The more connected we have become through technology, the more disconnected many feel from their own inner wisdom. And that's right, I created this series today because we're going to explore how to strengthen your critical thinking skills while staying connected at the same time to your intuition. Because in this age of disinformation, both are essential for maintaining psychological well being. So I'm going to start off with a story from my practice, and I'm going to change the names for privacy, of course. But let's start with Layla. Layla came to me overwhelmed by conspiracy theories about health and medicine. She had become so skeptical of everything that she couldn't even make a basic decision about her health. Meanwhile, Tom, another client, believed everything he read online, and this led to costly investments in fake miracle cures. So, critical thinking isn't about being like Layla, so skeptical to the point of paralysis, nor is it being like Tom, accepting everything at face value. It's really about balancing between these two extremes. So you want to think of critical thinking like a skilled surfer riding the waves of information. You need to basically stay balanced and centered. You want to know when to dive deeper. You want to recognize when to let things pass beneath you. And you want to trust your training and your intuition. So there are three pillars of modern critical thinking that I want to review. The first one, we're going to call it information assessment. So a client called Michael showed me a viral social media post about a new psychological study. The headline was shocking to grab your attention. The numbers seemed solid and it had thousands of shares. But when we looked closer, we discovered the following. The study was not peer reviewed. The institute didn't even exist, and the author's credentials were made up. They were fabricated. So this leads to our first key practice, and I call it SIFT. SIFT stands for Stop, Investigate, Find, and Trace. Stop because you want to stop and take a breath before you react. You want to investigate who's behind the information, who benefits from the information. You want to find better coverage or primary sources, and you want the information claims, what the information's claiming, traced back to the original context. This is very similar to when you get an email and it's phishing. It looks like your bank, but when you look at the top address in the email, you notice that it's not from your bank. It has a bunch of letters, or it might be from another country even. So it's similar to that. Number two is you want to really have self-trust development. One of the most powerful moments in my practice was when a young woman named Rachel, she had always been naturally intuitive, but had learned to dismiss her gut feelings because they weren't logical enough. So she gave a lot more importance to being logical than to her body and to intuition. During our work together, she recalled how her intuition had actually protected her from a fraudulent business opportunity, but she had ignored it because the numbers seemed convincing. This is key. We must develop self trust, and we must do this in the following way. So, these are some suggestions. You could keep a gut check journal. You want to notice physical sensations when processing information and document when your intuition was correct, when it was right. Also, learn from the times it misled you. That's important too. Number 3, balance and integration. So, imagine your mind as a courtroom. You're going to need 3 things: a logical prosecutor who questions everything. You're going to need the intuitive defender who speaks for your inner wisdom. And finally, you're going to need the wise judge who can integrate both perspectives. That's you. So let's practice together with a real world example. So take a recent study that I saw that's a viral health claim that says study shows coffee drinkers live 50 years longer. 50 years longer? A little crazy, but a lot of people believed it. So let's look at this one. So let's apply our critical thinking steps to this situation. So the first thing you want to do is you want to pause and you want to notice your initial reaction. You want to check the source and study details. You want to consider who benefits from this information. You want to listen to your intuitive response. Research legitimate scientific sources would be the last step. Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, how do I check my intuition? So intuition basically is an inner knowing. It's described as an inner knowing. It's not something that's logical. It's just something that you just know. And a lot of the times you receive intuition as something, a sensation in the body, whether it's coming from your abdomen area or lower, or maybe it's something coming from your heart area, but it's something that just comes up and said, this doesn't feel right, or I think something is wrong here. You can't put your finger on it. That's another common thing with intuition. It's very difficult to put your finger on it, but you just know. And then the logical side will help you to prove it or disprove it. So that's another thing you could do with that. So here's some daily practices. You can start your day with a 5-minute media reflection. You want to practice the 3-source rule before sharing. So if you're going to share something, especially if it's something that looks amazing or fascinating or incredible, you want to make sure there are 3 sources that can prove that or where that came from before sharing. That's a good rule to maintain. You want to maintain a truth journal to track your decision-making progress. Now, regular digital detox periods also helps to reset your intuition. You know, if there's a lot of information coming at you, that's way too much. That's going to overwhelm your intuition. So it's good to take a break, maybe not see the news for a few hours, or not look at your emails for a few hours if you can. And that's how you can start to reset that intuition. As we explore today, critical thinking in the modern world requires both sharp analysis and deep intuitive wisdom. It's about building a trusted partnership between your rational mind and your inner knowing. I'm Dr. RB, and I'm passionate about helping people like you develop these skills, especially nowadays when there's so much happening in the news that we feel we can't trust much. It's important to go back and look at critical thinking as an important skill to have. So if you'd like to work together to deepen your critical thinking abilities, or address any other psychological challenges you might have, I'm going to include the link below to a complimentary 15-minute appointment with me to just see if we're a good fit to work together. Remember, in a world of endless information, your mind is your most valuable asset. Treat it with care, trust it with wisdom, and never stop developing it. Until then, this is Dr. RB. Take care.